So I do my part. I'm gonna let Lewis, as soon as he gets through scheduling with our friend. Oh, he's got a frame here that I think you would be interested in learning about. So Lewis, we're grateful for our bee inspector for this area. If you ever need him, give him your phone number, your personal phone number.
828-230-4544. And I'll give Chris my card. He can put my contact info on the website. I've got some links that I would like to have on the website, like the Honeybee Health Coalition and some other good stuff. Very valuable. I'll send that stuff to you. So there's been some posts on the NCFDA Facebook page about some American Foulbrood, some in Tennessee, some in South Carolina. And I have this frame of, it has some American Foulbrood scale on it. So this frame has been sterilized, so it's not infected, but it is from a colony that had American Foulbrood last year. And so we took care of that. And we had some, we found some frames that didn't have any brood or honey in it, so we were able to sterilize those and kind of use it as a teaching thing. And so this, so what are some red flags for American Foulbrood? What are some symptoms?
Dead bees.
Dead bees?
Yeah.
What else?
Sunken caps and pierced caps.
Sunken cappings, pierced cappings, a little bit of a smell. I guess the first one is you pull a frame out and you got a poor brood pattern. That doesn't mean it's American Foulbrood, but so that's the first red flag. Oh, something's out of whack here. And then we look for the sunken cappings, pierced cappings. You might have a little smell when you open the top. That's not right. Or this case, the fellow, he had a bunch of colonies and he said, I smell something in my apiary. So not even opening the colonies, just walking by them. He's like, something's not right. And so he called me and he was right. There was a lot that was not right. But anyway, on this frame, we don't have that brood. We don't have the poor brood pattern. We don't have sunken cappings, pierced cappings. What we do have is like the very subtle, if you can recognize AFB on this frame, you are in good shape. Like you'll be able to see it. So on the bottom of the cells, so let's think about like this is the plane of the cone, and we have all these cells that are round, and they tilt back a little bit like that. So these are cell walls here, and this is the midrib. So this is the bottom of the cell, and there'll be other cells on this side. And so the bottom of the cell looks like that. And when that pupa dies, it kind of, that coffee brown goo, when it dries up, the pupa that's diseased, when it dries up, it leaves this scale, or just the dry remains of that pupa. And so in some of these cells, if you look at the bottom of this cell, of those cell walls, so I'm not looking at the bottom, I'm looking at the cell walls, you will see some of the cells have this, we call it scale. And have this little UV flashlight. And if you'll shine this UV flashlight across here, you will see in some cells a faint blue kind of glow. And it's hard to see without, if you have a flashlight on your cell phone, you could look, shine a regular light in there and you might see the scale in the bottom of the cell. But you could use this to kind of, give you a quick check. But it really does glow a nice little pretty color. So let's go, you can send that around. It doesn't have a lot of smell, but you can stick your nose to it. At kind of room temperature, it seems to smell more like just regular propolis. If I leave this in my truck on a hot day, when I come back, the whole inside of my truck has that American Foulbrood smell. It'll burns into your brain. You won't forget it.
Lewis, will your UV light work on an active hive if you're looking at frames?
You have to be, so if we could, if we turn the lights out,
Oh, okay.
you probably could. So it's kind of hard to see with the lights here. But yeah, you'll definitely want to be looking at the bottom. Yeah, it's kind of looking that way. So have the top bar towards you, shining this way. The top bar is towards you. So I guess the other thing I want to talk about is risk. So we talk about American Foulbrood, it's a very serious, and so if this frame were not sterilized, all these spores, if we put this frame into a new colony of bees, those spores would germinate, and whatever colony this went into would break down. So it is a serious disease. This is American Foulbrood, not European Foulbrood. European Foulbrood does not form spores. Right? So it is a very toxic or a very dangerous disease, but it's very rare, or pretty darn rare. So I want to talk about risk. There's a couple of factors when we're talking about risk. One is kind of toxicity. This is a very toxic disease. The other part of risk is exposure, right? So although it is very toxic, the incidence is low. So risk, I think, is fairly low, especially if you're kind of following North Carolina's rules. So in North Carolina, you have to have a permit to sell bees and queens. So the inspectors want to inspect the dealers before they sell the stuff. So we want to inspect to make sure their bees are healthy before they get spread around. And also, if beekeepers want to move stuff into North Carolina, we want their inspectors to look to make sure they're healthy before they come to North Carolina. Talking about risk, I mean, people get excited about American Foulbrood. I want people to get that excited about varroa mites, because that's where the risk is, right? So they are toxic, and your bees are exposed to them. So it's the viruses, the mites, the varroa, and the viruses associated with the mites are wild. That's the real thing that everyone should be doing. I want everyone to be educated about American Foulbrood and be able to recognize it. I think that's what makes North Carolina great, is we have this great network. We have this great state association. We have a great network of county beekeeping associations just like this. Where we can educate beekeepers and share information. And this is what makes North Carolina great as a beekeeping state. So, sir.
Question, Rick. If somebody is transporting bees across the state line, do they have to stop at the agricultural inspection section?
I do not. Do we have any agricultural inspection stations coming into North Carolina? Not that I'm aware of.
Florida's the only one I know.
Florida's the
Yeah.
only one I run into.
Right.
Florida, California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would like for anyone coming here to have a permit, so they would check with their bee inspector, and if they have a bee inspector in their state, he would inspect or she would inspect and communicate with us that things look good, and then we would issue a permit to move into North Carolina to the beekeeper. So there's a process. If anybody needs help on that process, happy to help with that.
Going back to the American fowl for a moment, how is it contracted? Is it only from putting something in the hive, or can the bees? go out
If a colony out in the wild is falling apart from American Foulbrood, your bees may be robbing and picking it up, or if your neighbor's bees have it.
Okay, so it'd be contracted from another hive or?
Yeah, it's a bacterial disease.
Okay.
Yeah, so if a colony is falling apart, it's probably going to get robbed, and the robbers can pick it up and move it around. Yeah. But I would say that I think this fella, he had a fair amount of it, and he was one of those that likes to collect free bee equipment from barns. I mean, there's one in every association, no problem. But be very careful with, is it you guys?
No, I just had a guy that gave me a bunch of boxes and stuff. So.
Yeah, so if it's old stuff that you don't know the history of, I can sterilize it and take the risk down to zero, pretty much. And if it's just someone who was in beekeeping for a couple of years and they kind of
That's what he
flopped
was.
out, so I'm not concerned about those guys.
But the
Really.
frames are useless anyway. We have to
Yeah. I'm really more concerned about, this is my grandfather's stuff. It's been in the barn for 20 years. Don't know anything about
He's
it.
had it for about 3 years and then he just got out of it.
Yeah, so I'm not as concerned about that stuff. But the stuff that's been stored for a long time, I'm more concerned about that. But so we have a program in North Carolina, pretty unique, where we can sterilize it on the cheap. So I can do a pickup truck full for about $100. So it's a good deal. I'll come to your house, pick it up, sterilize it, bring it back.
We can tear out the wax and all this.
No, it's gonna come back, it's gonna look just like it.
You don't do fresh.
We don't pressure wash it, or paint it in
Right
oil.
Push it a little bit.
What
We don't buff it.
if you put them hives in a freezer and you frames in a freezer and leave them for a week?
It would kill wax moths and hive beetles, but it's not gonna touch the spores.
That one-
It's not gonna touch them at all. So
Okay.
these spores can live for tens of years, no
Yeah.
problem. They're very tough. So we have a sterilizing gas that'll
Yeah,
take care of it. Yeah, happy to do that. So.
What's the chances of a beekeeper transmitting that disease from one hive to another hive or to somebody else's hive?
So, think of it, think of your hive tool as kind of like a toothbrush. So you wouldn't want to use someone else's toothbrush in your mouth because you can pick up whatever they have. But I think that's the same thing. If you're moving frames of bees or brood, you want to make sure that those frames of bees and brood are healthy looking. You know, because that's a very easy way to move this stuff. And you can also move it on a hive tool or stuff like that. We don't see it, so a lot of times we might have seen a person has 5 colonies in the apiary, one of them is infected, the other 4 are fine. So, you know, this guy probably had 15 colonies and 7 of them were infected. So that's the worst case that I've seen in my 4 or 5 years.
And when that happens, do you have to burn them all? Or no?
Yeah, so we burn the frames of bees. We save some like this that we can sterilize, and we save just woodenware. So I have, I said, let's sterilize all the junk that you picked up. We're going to sterilize all that. We don't know where it came from, so we sterilize. Just pick up trucks full of his old woodenware. So
What about the bees themselves? I mean, I know you can't sterilize them, but
Yeah,
do
so
you
they
wait
went
till the
into
whole
the
hive
fire.
is dead and
They
or
went into the
gone?
fire, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically they went into a soapy bucket, which then went into the pit where the fire was. Yeah, so there's no saving the bees. Yeah. This is for America, not for European.
And you mentioned having a permit to sell, because like I said, we've got 9 hives now, and I really didn't want more than 6.
If you're gonna sell more than 10 colonies, you need a
Okay.
permit. If you're gonna just sell 4, 5, or 9,
Well, we considered selling a couple of ours at one point, but then I guess we got greedy and decided to keep them.
yeah. Well, hopefully it's been a good honey year, so maybe they'll pay some rent for you.
He got you swarmed, is it a swarm?
Yeah, it's been at least in my neighborhood, it's been a very good honey year. It sounds like it's good up here too. So which is good because last year stunk.
Yeah, like it.
So it's good. Anyway, I think that's it. So.
You have another question, Louis?
All right, Alan, what do you have right quick?
Well, without breaking confidentiality, what county is that American Foulbrood? Is it Haywood?
No, this frame came from Watauga County. That was last year. We had a case in Jackson County 3 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Now, some of it's false stocks are on too.
So that's going on right now, picking, ground picking. But it's not like airborne. I'm not worried about it blowing across the border. I think the risk is low.
How would you describe the smell?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
If you went to the football gym, longer, and they just played ball, the hardest ball game they had, went in overtime, and you went and collected everybody's socks, underwear, put it into a bag, carried out to your car, and stuck your head. You know what that kind of smell is? You're on American Foulbrood.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not putrid, but it's not dirty gym socks. But it's if your dirty gym socks died.
Yeah.
It's putrid dirty gym socks.
Yeah.
You know if you smell it.
Yeah, so you might be able to catch a whiff, and if we put that in the oven for 10 minutes,
Yeah.
it'll be nice. Anything else? All right, thank you for that time, Alan.
Thank you.
And Chris, I'll get you some cards, and thank you for this club is really looking great, man. You guys are doing a great job, so keep it up.
The alarm, I've got American Foulbrood. No, it's a good possibility it's Asher. cover. It has a similar smell. Not put it on. But anyway, good to be here, and the topic tonight is on hive splits. And if you are a fortunate beekeeper to be able to make it through winter and your hive is building up, to be able to split, you are doing absolutely wonderful. So hive splitting is just a great way to expand your bee yard. I heard him say that he only wanted 6. When I first started, I told my wife, I said, I just want to do 3 hives. And the next year I had 30.
Yeah.
So it's very addictive. He got 45. 45. I asked him if he's still married. And, but it is very addictive because you can, if you get your hive going and you get them ready for winter and they make it through the winter, that hive is either going to do one of 2 things. It's either going to swarm, because that's the natural process of beekeeping, is bees will reproduce themselves. So they're either going to swarm, or you as a smart beekeeper are going to do what we call an artificial swarm, which is hive splits. And so I'm grateful for the privilege to speak to you. I don't know a lot, but I'm going to give you what I know. And there are several ways to split hives. I know of 2 or 3 ways that you can split hives. But if you're like me, I want the easiest way out. And I want the way that you was talking about being successful splitting hives. That's what we want. And so I want to tell one method, and then I want to talk about the easy way, which is one I prefer to do. And so here you got a hive that is set up similar to this. I like doing, when I first started, I had a brood box and a super, which is a small shallow. I had shallows. I do now have mediums. But I'm trying to go through my bee yard and convert to double brood box. And it makes hive splits a whole lot easier. I spoke with the UPS guy today, and he was talking about having a hard time finding the queen, and he's wanting to do splits. And I said, I wish you would come tonight. I would show you an easy way of doing hive splits. But however your configuration is of your split, this is probably the setup that's going to be the easiest. I know we're getting in the days where I'm getting a little older, and this does get a little heavy if it's full of honey. A brood box, I don't even know exactly how many pounds. Does anybody know?
It ain't a little
10
bit.
frames 80 to 100.
Yeah.
I was gonna say at
It's
least
more like
70
100
pounds.
pounds
At least
this
Yeah,
70.
yeah, well, honey in it, yes.
They ain't a little, they're a whole lot.
Yeah.
I can't even hold that one.
Yeah.
So it's tough. It's tough. And so anyway.
Well, I don't have to wait about it.
Yeah.
So let's imagine that this hive is a booming hive, and we got double brood, and we want to expand our bee yard and make 2 out of this hive. We can make more than that, but tonight we're just going to talk about 2. And so what would I do if I'm going in and look at this hive and I want to make a split? You're going to have to do one of 2 things. You're going to have to decide whether you're going to buy a mated queen for your split, or you can let the hive make their own queen. Now, you've heard several talk about swarms that's going on in March, and April is our swarming season, and it's easy to find swarm cells. We have the educational hive here. There is a picture of a swarm cell. You can look at it. It's just like a peanut. And usually swarm cells is going to be on the bottom of your frame. And so if you pull out a frame and you see cells, queen cells, and so, you know, it's typically attached that or close to the bottom. Mine, they know I want to raise queens, and they'll put them right there where I can't get a hold of it. You know, where I can do it. Or can I get it in? But anyway, they would have it stuck, and I just couldn't get it off there. But that's a great time to raise your own queen. But it takes a while to raise queen. If I wanted to take a frame out and make my own queen that's already capped, realize that the from egg to being mated is around 27, 30 days. So you have to decide, if I have that long, do I want to wait that long to get that hive back going? Some of you like to have honey as your production. Now you're looking at a beekeeper that really cares less about honey. I don't even like it that much. I'll eat it every now and then. My wife cooks with it, but I just like the bees. How many of you like honey? You're in it for the honey. And so if you're going for honey production, then you may not want to try that. Because it's a 50-50 chance that this queen, even though you got a nice, big, long queen cell, it's a 50-50 chance that she emerges out of that cell, goes and makes her mating flight and gets back to your hive, simply because birds love virgin queens.
Dragonflies do too.
Sir?
Dragonflies do too.
Dragonflies. And so it's great food for them, or she gets, you know, she doesn't have a good GPS and can't make it back to this particular hive that you want her to take over. So it's a 50-50 chance. And so let's talk about what I do. I'm here at this hive, and it's just busting its seams with bees. Brood box in the top is full. The brood box in the bottom is full of bees. And I decided I'm going to split this hive. I'm going to use a mated queen that I have purchased from a queen brood. Okay, so that's the way I'm going to take it. So I go and I look at this hive, and one method is I've taken this box and I've moved her off, and I'm taking each frame, scanning it over, see if I've got any queen cells. They're easy to miss sometimes because they'll even put them on the side, or there'll be loads of bees that are on your frame, and sometimes they can be missed. Let me ask you a question though. If you see a queen cell here, we call that a swarm cell. If you see it up here in the middle or more to the top, what would you call that kind of a queen cell? Supersedure. So just know the difference. If you see a supersedure, then you want to look and see what your queen's doing. And if she's laying beautifully, and these bees are just, you know, they've got it figured out that she's a good layer. Because that happens sometimes when you get a new queen to put in your hive, and she's laying a beautiful pattern. They're just not used to her, and so they just go through and start making supersedures. So just be aware that that can happen. Also, if you go through your hive and you see a queen cut, About what a queen cup is, right?
Empty.
Queen cup is empty, it has no royal jelly or larva in their egg.
How do you tell whether they're new or old, Alan?
Sir?
How do you tell whether the queen cup is new or old? I can't tell the difference between one that the queen has come by and killed the contents, or one that they're making. Is there a difference?
Well, the only way I can tell is look in that cell and see if there's royal jelly or any larva in their egg. If it's just empty, it's old. And being me, I don't even bother with it because they don't bother me because I'm in my hives periodically. If you're one that just, you're not inspecting your hive that much, you may want to go ahead and just piece those off, those queen cups. It's not going to hurt the hive at all. Just, Jordan and I, we want to raise a lot of bees and queens, and so we'll keep them in case we get one that we want to take out.
We'll just build it back anyway. Yeah.
So how often do you get in your hives, Alan?
Well, I have enough hives where I can go in every day if I want to. And
But a
so-
particular hive, how often do you go into like one
it's-
particular hive to make sure you're staying on top of stuff?
Once a week.
Once a week.
Once a week. Okay.
If it's honey flow, stay out of it till honey flow is over.
Okay.
Is the rule that I've learned. If it's honey flow, because once you go into that hive during honey flow, you've set that hive back 2 days. So if it's honey flow and you're wanting to get honey, you leave that hive alone until honey flow is over. And so right now, the locust flow is over and we are in to poplar. I guess we are in Jackson County.
Now, it's still on locust still.
Still locust.
Here it is.
Wind it down.
Poplar just starting their plants.
Yeah, I just
Really,
started
ours is
seeing
winding
poplar.
down.
Now, ours is just starting their plants. They got pretty blooms.
Not that around Cash.
Cashew's got big blooms on Lake Randall up there. I've ever seen this year.
Cash is not little county, it's big room.
It's got the biggest locust blooms up there. I've ever seen. We went to lake up there getting Saturday. And I've seen the biggest blooms up there I've ever seen on the lake.
So, if you got a honey flow going, just lay the supers on, 2 at a time, 3 at a time, whatever. That's the way to do it. So, we're inspecting, we're going through, and we're looking, and we're actually trying to find the queen. And so I'm looking and I'm going through, and oh, there she is. And so I just take that frame and set it aside. I usually have with me an empty box, brood box, and where I can just set that queen in there. Some people like to catch them and put them in a cage. If you're not experienced doing that, I would not advise you to pick up your queen. Just put it into another box where she's safe there. And so I found my queen, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to look, and I want to create me a split. And so what I like to do is for a split is I want to do 2 frames of brood. If you can read my handwriting. Broad, okay. Then I want 1 frame of honey and pollen. 1 frame of drawed out comb. And then the rest of it. If you're going to set it back up into a 10 frame hive, then I would leave this empty here. And just put E, then your drawed out comb. Your frame of honey, brood, and your drawed out comb, empty, and empty. Some people ask, what kind of brood do you want to have? I always try to go in, if I put my new queen in, I want this to be capped brood. It's okay to have a little bit of open brood, but if it's capped, there's less chance for them to raise a new queen when you're putting a new queen in the hive. Does that make sense? Empty, drawed out comb, brood, honey frame. If you got extra honey frame, put another honey frame in it. Drawed out comb, empty. Does that make sense? So, that's the most difficult way, is going in and trying to find your queen. Now, if you're like me, your schedule is very hectic, and you don't have all day to try to find that queen. How many of you know it's hard sometimes when you got thousands of bees in this brood box, thousands of bees in this box, to find that queen? Especially if you're legally blind like me, and sometimes that can be a challenge. I've been successful this past week. Every hive I went into, I found my queen, or if I was helping somebody else, I found their queen. And so you've worked and you've worked and you've worked and you cannot find that queen nowhere. She's in there because you've seen open brood. I know somebody was talking and they mentioned, said, you're making a mistake by going in there and you're trying to find the queen. The best way to find your queen is see if she's laying. If you've got a good laying pattern, why do you need to see that queen? Unless you just want to see her. I want to just go in and make sure she's doing good and leave that hive alone. So, say we worked all day, if we've not found the queen, which happens a lot of times. What am I going to do now? Well, here comes the easy method. But let me finish this process. You found your queen. You take this, put her on another bottom board and top, and you're going to have to take this hive and you have to go 2 miles, at least 2 miles away from your parent hive. Why would we do that?
So go back.
All the way to the parent hive.
Because they'll leave this hive and come right back to the parent hive. If you take it 2 miles, they have to reorientate themselves back to trying to figure out where they're at. And so, at least 2 miles. Not everybody is blessed to have a place 2 miles away from their bee yard to take that split. So what can you do if you don't have 2 miles, property 2 miles away? Here's my method that I like to do, is I get this hive and I go through it and I choose what I want to put in. If you want to put more than 2 frames of brood, sometimes I will equalize and put half the brood in here and half the brood in this one. Equalize it. If I want to make 2 strong hives, just equalize it. So what I do is I go in and I choose, and I shake all my bees back into this box, the parent hive, every frame. I'm looking to see if I see the queen. If I don't see it, I just shake her off. And I've got this whole box empty. And I've got the frames that I want, that's got my brood, got my honey frame, foundation, and empty comb. Got it all set up. Then I will take a queen excluder, which we have here, place it on the parent hive. There's no bees in here. Put this back on top and close it up and leave it for 24 hours. Okay? 24 hours. 24 hours is taking place. I can go to this hive, pull this off, put it right next to it if I wanted to, on the bottom board, put a top on it, put an inner cover back on this one. And I can leave this one in the same bee yard as long as I've left it for 24 hours. Why is that possible? Anybody know?
There's all the nurse bees in there, all you got is nurse bees in there.
Got what?
All you got is nurse bees.
Nurse bees. So when you're shaking all the bees back in here, they're not gonna leave that brood uncovered. All these nurse bees will come up. And nurse bees have never been out of this hive. They've never graduated to that division of labor where they went out in 4-H. And so they'll stay with this hive, and you put your new queen in there, and you wait your time, 4 or 5 days for that queen to come out. I go back and see if that cage is empty, pull the cage out, close it back up, and leave it for another 7 days. Here's a mistake with a lot of beekeepers that make when they want to go back and pull that queen cage out. They want to go through there and start looking for that queen that they just bought. Okay? The reason I want to leave it alone for another week is give that queen time to acclimate to this hive and the bees to acclimate with her. And she starts laying a pattern. If you go in on the 4th or 5th day and you start looking for it, there is a high possibility that they will take and ball that queen and kill whatever you paid for it. I've heard people pay at least $45 for a queen. Crazy. I paid $30 myself. Actually bought $150, and I'm still married. And but leave that queen alone. Let her get in there and activate. That's the easiest way. You don't have to look for the queen. You just simply shake all the bees off, let the nurse bees come up, 24 hours, take it, put it on a bottom board, put your new top, and put your another top on this. If I had any questions about that, that was quick, wasn't it?
You got one there.
What's the name of that type of split? What do you call it, split?
Jerry's been.
This type, I call it an artificial swarm.
I call it walkaway.
No,
Demar
like
method?
walk away.
Yeah, walkaway.
Is it the Demar method? Is that what it is? Demar?
That's what we did.
I should know because I took the test.
Yeah.
I think it's the Demar method.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know? I thought you just tried to stump me.
Yeah.
I hope you're in 21 years, it's definitely got more activity.
If I got a question, I know I went through that pretty fast.
Thank you.
It's really simple to make a split. And like I say, the easiest way where you want to stay in the same bee yard is to do it with the queen clitoris. Let the nurse bees come up and introduce you to the queen. Let the parent hive keep the old queen. Question? Yes.
I've got a couple of nukes, and one of them swarm, after I put 10. So the other one, I figured it was gonna swarm too, so I moved it into a 5-frame booth along with the queen. That's 7 days ago. I'm not sure there's enough, other than having drawn comb to put in there, I'm not sure there's enough room in there for him. Or I'm just wondering, should I go ahead and put her in a 10 frame, along what's there, and I only have, a foundation, I don't have drawn comb.
Is that what you're eventually going to do?
That's what I'm gonna have to do if I don't know what else to do.
I would go ahead and do it.
If you said that-
I don't know that moving from a 5-frame to 10-frame are going to make it swarm. The only thing that I was thinking that first comes to my mind is that you probably had a virgin queen. Hopefully you bought a maiden
No, it
queen.
was a maiden queen, she was laying like crazy.
Oh, okay, she was late.
Well, yeah, she still had two weeks, still like 2 weeks.
Okay. So, there are a race of bees, Carneoles,
That's what I get.
are susceptible if they feel like they're tight at all. She feels like that they're crowded, she's gonna come out of that hive and swarm.
Both the nukes have 3 or 4 queen cells in one now.
You just left them alone?
I think that's good.
Okay.
That's
So,
so good.
so if you already had queen cells in there, then the original queen swarmed out and left you with what you got.
I just point out one thing that I noticed when I was doing that, is if you put that box on a flat surface without having that bottom bar on it, those queen cells stick down below it.
Mhm.
And you're gonna, I wiped out 3 of them. So
So
you
I-
gotta put it on the bottom board. You've got that 3/4 inch there.
if I'm working a hive, like you're talking about, that's why I like this, telescope. I turn it upside down, just like I got it, and,
I
take
do
it.
now.
Now, another good reason for doing that right there, if that queen falls out, she's gonna fall in that box, she ain't gonna
Right.
fall on the ground. So,
Yes, sir.
If you do have the ability to move them 2 miles apart, like let's say you were to move them to a friend's house, for how long before you could move them back?
a couple weeks.
So if you moved them
2
till
to
they
3
got
years.
set for a couple of weeks or so, then you could move them back to where you wanted them. Okay.
Now, you wanna be smart about it. Don't wait till the middle of the day and decide you're gonna move them,
Yeah.
because if you move them in the middle of the day, guess what?
Get
Your
rid of
swarm
it.
are
We're
still
gone.
out there.
Yep.
You wanna get as many bees back,
Yeah.
so do it early in the morning, early, just crack of daylight. Or even before that, or late at night.
Or at night.
And one more thing to that, when you do move them, put something in front of the entrance, change the
Yeah.
entrance a little bit, a limb or something, change it around a little bit, so it makes it look different, because sometimes if you don't, Daniel, I have seen them swarm out before like that, so I always put pine straw or pine limbs or something in front of it, or something, just change it a little bit, just for a day or two's off.
Okay.
And it's a whole lot easier moving a 5-frame nuke box than it is 10-frame box. So if you're doing splits and you're gonna move them, do them in 5-frame boxes, it's just simpler and a lot easier on your body than doing 10 frames or even Alan's 8, it's still easier.
Alan, you talked about lighting 4 frames of brood to make a split. I've never seen 4 frames of brood in my hive.
Come to my house, I'll show you 6.
Yeah.
Now, full frames.
I think mine are honey bound most of the time.
Yeah.
Probably why I have 2 of them swarming.
So you're gonna have to be a little bit more aggressive than what you're doing.
Yeah.
Get that honey out of there.
By going in and making sure that they don't get honey.
Keeping the honey out and giving them room to lay, because I got 6 frames, I got a 4 boxes right now. It's got 6, I've got them from where they've just been capped to the dark brown capped, and you can tell the levels that they move.
Right, well, what do you do with the frames when you take them out if you don't have anywhere else to put
I'm
them?
just moving them around boxes. If I got another box over here, that don't have much honey, I'm putting them in there and switching them back and forth.
We've done that for a couple, but then we.
Well, if you'll keep moving them to the outside edge.
Put them on the single.
Put them on the
Can you
wall.
On the single you got, put another deep box on the top and put them in there.
Yeah, see, all you gonna do is make a room. Move your honey up, put your bottom, keep the queen to the bottom.
If you get too honey bound, can you just move some of the honey out and put in a new foundation?
Yeah, yeah.
That's what we're trying to do, trying to get it out of the way.
You can put that frames of honey if your wife will let you put it in the freezer.
Well, she don't know.
But be sure you put it in big, strong, commercial grade plastic trash.
And don't turn it upside down.
Well, the other thing is,
Your wife
everybody
has to
calls
cook
it
to go in the
honey.
freezer.
Everybody calls frames of honey that they pull out of their box and their deeps. Remember something, that you fed those bees. So a lot of that is not really honey. So the only thing it's good for is giving it back to the bees. Whatever you do, don't extract it and try to sell it to somebody.
There's a question back there.
Yes, sir.
So this, you were saying to do it with a caged queen, can you do this with a queen cell too? Or how does this work with that? That's your method?
You can do it either way.
Okay.
The method I was talking about is putting a mated queen in a cage box. If I do a queen cell, you can do the same thing as what we've done. Take that queen cell and gently move the bees off of it. Or if you can diligently find the queen, know where she's at, put that queen cell on top. And again, it's empty, let the nurse bees come up and put it over the side.
Alan, you could show them the way to take that queen with that frame out, set it in a box cell, and to leave queen cells in the original box and just push the brood out, do it that way too. You can tell them that way if they want to move it away. Now, so now, if you catch it quick enough before they swarm.
Now, I'm glad you brought that up about queen cells. Let's say that we got this hive and we go in and we find queen cells. Not queen coats, but queen cells. Active egg or larva or its cat. You're gonna have to do something quick. You're gonna have to find her. You've got to find her. And I don't leave her in the parent hive. I take that queen and a few frames, whatever I want, a couple frames of brood, or just one frame of brood. You can do that. And I take her and go ahead and do an artificial swarm, take her away to make this hive say, okay, she's left, they've already swarmed. Because if you leave that queen in this parent hive and they've got queen cells, you've not, just because you've taken away some bees, you may have reduced the chance of swarming down some, 50%, but there's a good possibility they'll swarm anyway. So if you just take her and a frame or two of brood of bees, go 2 miles away, you're going to be safe.
Especially if it's a second-year-old queen cell. Now, first year, you know how it works, but a second-year-old, you can't swarm.
A lot of times I'll do it with a second-year-old
Yeah.
queen, because I know I'm gonna re-queen and get rid of her. It's a whole lot easier to do it in a new box with less bees in it than it is to do it in a double deep full of bees, so.
I always say this, a swarm in a box is better than a swarm in a tree. I don't want to climb, I've climbed up 40 foot
Yeah.
in a tree to get a swarm, I'm that crazy.
And just remember, it's $150 sitting up in that tree right
The other
there.
trees, you do later, you got the other trees.
Any questions? Somebody may want to add to what we just said. You may have had a method that you like.
How many of
This
y'all
was
lost
just the
a swarm of
easiest.
bees this year?
Sir?
How many beekeepers has had one swarms already?
You had 2 swarms, so we caught it.
Yeah, I had a swarm, but I caught them, so does that count?
I know, like, I had a friend that had one that went near about, I believe it was, I know it was the top of the pine, it was near about 80 foot high.
Next day, first.
Thank you.
They stayed, oh, we got them out, we took the shotgun, we shot the lemon too, we got them out. But they were way up there, but,
They'll die.
no, we shot the lemon too, we got some slugs and shot the lemon too, so we got them out, but most of the time they're gonna go to high street again. Now, when they first come out, they'll hit low, but normally they go right straight in there.
But that's funny, because the two that I had swarm were like, one was literally a foot off the ground on the stem, and one was in the lowest peach tree right near my garden.
If you ain't got high limbs, sometimes they'll do that. but-
Oh, there's nothing but trees around. I think I just got lucky.
Yeah. Any other questions?
That you were talking about, the splitting on the queen cell, I got one, and just to add to, we were going in them, and I see the queen cell on the bottom, and it had larvae in it, so I shook all the bees off of it, put a queen excluder on there and stuck that back on top of that, and they went up in it, and then, 2 days later, I think, I just took that off and set it to the side. Both hives are still doing good. That queen come out, and made it come back to that hive, and both those are doing good.
You probably caught it early enough time where they didn't get too much in the swarms.
And
I'm
most times,
surprised that she didn't swarm.
if that cat, if that queen ever catch, most times you gonna swarm. If you don't find her, she's
So
gonna.
was it open sale?
It was an open cell, I just seen the larvae in there. And I just took, like I said, shook all the other bees out of that box, into the other box, put a queen excluder on it. Put that, and put some brood in there with that one, set it on top of it. And 2 days later, I took it, set it on a frame or on a base, and we got 9 hives.
Any other questions?